Hello, Tungsten Miner here. It's been a while since my last video, and a lot of that has been just life, but part of that has been that I've been creating a new mod pack, which I call Ad Astra, to the stars. And what I want to do now is just give you a brief tour of what's in the mod pack and give you some idea of what this is all about. We also have a server set up for this mod pack, so if you want, you can join our server too. So as you can see, I'm standing in front of some kind of structure, and this turns out to be my rocket base. So let's take a look. Right away, we can see a lot of the mods represented here, at least in some form or another. So if we take a look over here, we can see that there's dynamic trees, which means all of these trees grow from tiny little saplings all the way up to trees, step by step as a gradual process. And you can see there's different size trees and different size branches, and they grow in random formations. We can also see right here my little garden. A lot of this is from Pam's Harvest Craft. In fact, I think pretty much all of it is. This fence is from Mr. Crayfish's furniture mod. We'll see a bunch more examples of that as we go along. The lawn that I'm standing on here is actually a custom block that I added myself using Content Tweaker. So there's a ton of integration between all the different mods that Craft Tweaker, Content Tweaker, and Mod Tweaker all provide. So we can see over here some concrete, which has been chiseled using the chisel mod into a decorative pattern. And down here we have some water filters from Harvest Craft to produce water and salt. As we get closer, we can see some decorative blocks. I forget what mod adds these at this point, to be honest. But here we can see my stable. So I've got a couple of horses. And what you notice is these aren't the standard Minecraft colors for horses. So I've got a mod in here, the Realistic Horse Genetics mod, which makes it so that not only do the horses have realistic colors, but they also can be crossbred to actually lead someplace. So if you take two fast horses and breed them together, it actually is more probable that you'll get a fast horse as a result, unlike in the default Minecraft. You can also see these skinny partitions are from chisels and bits. So just making a ordinary block, chiseling some pieces off so that I get these nice thin partitions between the stalls. Over here we can see some shelves from Bibliocraft, a sickle from Thermal Foundation, some more chisels and bits. And this is actually a viaduct to move players around from one place to another, which comes from thermodynamics. And I'll demonstrate that in a little bit. More chisels and bits up above to create these nice ceilings. Here we have an owl. And this comes from the Zoo and Wild Animals mod, or ZAWA for short. This is an example of one of over 100 different wild animals that get added to the game by that mod. And I've put together a custom mob generation system so that mobs like this one only generate in biomes where it's appropriate and only in numbers that make sense. Unfortunately, a lot of wild animal mods, and this one included, tend to have them show up quite a lot more frequently than would make sense. That, of course, is not the vanilla moon. That is a change that comes with advanced rocketry, and I'll get to show you some of the stuff from advanced rocketry pretty soon. So let's take a look over here. So around the corner here, we can see plain concrete, but this is very obviously a runway. And that's because we have Mr. Crayfish's vehicle mod. So in here is my light aircraft, which comes from that mod. And a little fuel tank, which is filled with fuelium, as a fuel for these vehicles that you can create. And I've actually added integration with thermal expansion to allow you to use the still to be able to convert pretty ordinary materials that you'd use for thermal expansion fuels into fuelium that works with the Crayfish's mod. This is a custom switch mod I'm forgetting the exact name of. And this garage door comes from Malace's door mod. These lights come from Simply Lights, just a very basic mod. Adds lights and nothing else. Back over here, we get to the reception area. And here we have the Fex's Small Money Mod Bank. And when I click on this, it shows me the bank and allows me to deposit and withdraw funds from the bank. Now, this is a bank that's shared across the entire mod pack and across all players. And by pressing F4, I can bring up the Oxygen menu. So Oxygen is a mod which adds mail and marketplaces and a whole bunch of different things. So I can see, for example, these are all of the things that are on offer for sale by players on the market. Looks like I'm the only one with things offering at the moment, but that's mostly because I've bought up the things I needed from the other players. So we can sift and sort and look for different things. I can come over here and sell my own stuff if I wanted to. I happen to have nothing in my inventory right now, so there's nothing here. But this way players can exchange goods from one to another using the currency that we have in the game. And you can actually make your own currency. Let's take a look at my workshop here. So in here, we can see a whole bunch of mods all in one picture. We actually do not have Tinker's Construct, but we do have the Crafting Station mod, which just takes that one block and adds it to the mod. Here we're looking at chiseled granite. Here we're looking at storage drawers and the compacting drawers. More bibliocraft, lots of thermal expansion here. Another bibliocraft block. So here's a silver coin that I used my numismatic press in combination with the compactor to change silver ingots into that. And now I can take these coins and actually go and just deposit them into the bank. So let's see, I've got 1425. So manage account, deposit 1425, 000, and submit. And now I've deposited that amount. If I return and view my balance, it's that much larger. So you can actually make coins and deposit them in the bank just as you'd like. Over here, let's go back in here and we'll take a trip over into my storage room. So the barrels come from the vehicle mod. At the moment, they're just filled with lava. This is the work table from the vehicle mod, allowing you to make a whole different variety of vehicles. Lots and lots to choose from. Water vehicles, land vehicles, lawnmower, mini bikes, whole tons of stuff. This is a block from the advanced rocketry mod, which allows you to configure your spacesuit. And we'll take a look at my spacesuit in a little while. Over here, we've got the architects table from the architecture mod, architecture craft mod. This allows you to use the crayfish gun mod to be able to make your different weapons. I've got actually an armory upstairs that I can show you where some of these weapons I've got already. But it looks like it's getting dark outside and it started to rain. So why don't we head over to the master bedroom so I can take a nap here. So I'm going to click on this viaduct network and it shows me all of the openings from the viaduct network across the entire building. And as you could see from before, this is a pretty considerable building, so there's a lot of different rooms. But for right now, I just want to go to sleep. And here we are. Okay, daytime again. Hopefully the rain stops shortly. Very nice. Walk out here on the deck. Get a better view of where we're at here. So I settled far to the south, and there's a reason for that. Turns out the custom ore generation that I put into this mod pack means that certain ores only generate in certain biomes. So for example, I have no hope whatever of finding any iron ore where I'm standing at the moment, because this is a plains biome, and iron ore does not generate in a plains biome in this mod pack. It only generates in mountains, which would be far off to the north. However, I'm close to some mesa biomes where gold and silver generate. I'm standing in a plains biome where it's easy to find tin, and there are other biomes nearby, savannas and so on, that allow me to find redstone and copper and different things. But if I want to find lead, for example, I'll actually have to go get in that airplane and take a pretty long trip to go find any biomes, the snowy, icy biomes, where lead generates. So this is a transportation-focused mod. So we've got the vehicles, we've got breeding horses, and we've got a reason to travel. All of the ores and all of the materials generate pretty far apart from one another. So let's go take a look at the next vehicle mod. That little derrick you're seeing is actually part of the advanced rocketry mod. So here's the launch pad. And what we're looking at here is my first rocket. First rocket, pretty small, not too impressive, but we can take a walk down there and see what it's all about. So these banisters are from the Cathedral mod, and I haven't used a lot of that sort of stuff here because it's a pretty modern building, but I thought these look pretty nice. And of course, there's a ton more that you could build with that mod. Okay, so here we are. We're standing at the launch pad, and we've got a bunch of machines in front of us. This one here is the rocket builder, so I can have this scan to see if I've built a rocket that makes sense. Does it have enough fuel? Does it have enough thrust? Does it weigh little enough where that combination of fuel and thrust can get it off the planet? And once the scan is complete and everything looks good, then I can hit build and it will construct the rocket, which is the state things are in right now. So here I've got 9 fuel tanks, I've got 3 thrusters, I've got a satellite bay, I've got a guidance computer. At the top there, just behind that other derrick, you can see I've got a drill for an asteroid mining mission, and I've got some chests to put the results of the asteroid mining mission into. This guy over here is a monitoring station for unmanned rocket launches, so I could launch this rocket right now if I wanted to. No reason to do that at the moment, so I'll hold off. And here's the charging station. So if I had my spacesuit and I stood on this, it would fill up my oxygen tanks. Let's see here. Yeah, nothing interesting in there. All right, so this is kind of the end stage, or the middle stage, I guess, of the rocketry mod. In here, we can see some railcraft iron tanks, and this one is full of rocket fuel for fueling up my rocket. But making rocket fuel requires this advanced multi-block machine. So this is a chemical reactor that reacts hydrogen, this pink gas, and oxygen, this blue gas, into rocket fuel. The chemistry doesn't make sense. Don't ask me. It's not my mod. That's the way you make rocket fuel. But we've got 2 other tanks here full of hydrogen and full of oxygen. Yes, very dangerous, I know. But that's the way this thing works, which allows us to make that. All of the pipes you can see go into the floor, so we'll take a walk down there and just take a look at those later. But these are, of course, thermodynamics fluid pipes. Over here, we have an electrolyzer, which takes water in the back and converts it into hydrogen and oxygen. So we've got both of those there. Currently turned off, but I can turn that on. And it will start generating both of those fluids as it warms up here. Huh, well, it must have something wrong with it because it's not warming up. Anyway, we'll take a look at that later. Okay, over here, we've got a whole bunch of thermal expansion machines, the purpose of which is to ultimately make fuelium in this tank. So here we've got some bio-crude left over. Here's some crude oil left over. But we can take bitumen, drop it in this chest. That'll get pulled into this magma crucible, which melts it down into crude oil. Crude oil comes over here, gets distilled into naphtha. Naphtha gets dropped into here. Currently it's got bio-crude, but if this tank were empty, it would drop in here. That would get converted into refined fuel. Refined fuel drops into here, gets converted into fuelium. This then has a pipe underneath, which goes back to the garages and fills up those gas pumps. The second path, though, is to take acorns or wheat or barley or any kind of plant matter, crunch it up, turn it into pulped biomass. This machine is going to take seeds and squeeze them into seed oil. This guy is going to squash the 2 of them together to make a refined, or I forget what the thing's called, but extra strength biomass. That goes into this magma crucible, which gets melted down into bio-crude. So you can tell which of the 2 processes I've been using recently. All of that then drops into here and goes off and gets converted into fuel. If we head over here, we can see that we've got the extreme reactors mod. So at the moment, I've got just the tiniest little reactor that you can create, which is capable of generating up to 10 million RF in its internal storage pretty quickly. And we can see here I've got an energy cell that's been upgraded a few times. So now it's storing 32 million RF, but it's half empty. So I'm going to turn this thing on, activate reactor. And as it comes up to heat, it is starting to generate energy. And if we keep our eye over here, we can see it's going to fill up this energy cell first. Once that's full, it'll fill up its own internal buffer. The fuel for this is a yellorium ore, which is basically uranium. And this will get used up as the reactor works through its process. Next up, let's see what we use some of this power for. Here's the factory floor. So we're seeing a bunch of different machines, which are a mix of things from different mods, but mostly from advanced rocketry. This guy is our electric arc furnace. It can take inputs through the input hatch and then very slowly melts them down and creates outputs over here. The primary thing you do with this, at least the primary thing I've done with it so far, is to convert sand into silicon. And as I've done with a lot of the other recipes, all of the circuitry, circuit boards from advanced rocketry and open computers, which is another mod we've got in here, also from Railcraft, and I'm forgetting what else. All of the ones that have circuits and processors and electronics all require silicon, and I've changed the recipes so that they all have to come through this machine. So everything is tightly integrated. You won't see a lot of repeated or redundant recipes from one mod to the next. Over here, we've got a lathe, and unfortunately I don't have any metal on me, or I show you how this works. But anyway, so we take the silicon and we drop it into this crystallizer, and that makes a silicon boule, just kind of a log. We take the log and we throw it through this cutting machine, and that's when we get our silicon wafers. We can take those and bring them over to this precision assembly machine with other ingredients, redstone and copper and diamonds and lapis, and make all sorts of advanced gadgets and devices, a lot of which go into making satellites. So if we walk down the end here, this is a satellite building machine. So you take your shell of the satellite here, you take ID chips that you can use to keep track of your satellite and drop them in here, whatever the primary sensor is, power generation, and then data collection and transmission. Click build, and you've got yourself a satellite that you can take back outdoors over there and drop it onto your satellite bay and send it into orbit. This machine here allows me to take barrels of lava and convert them into obsidian, which you need a fair bit of in the form of powdered obsidian for hardened glass. Fluid transposer, this is actually my cement mixer. So I'll take cement powder, pop it in here. This will get pulled into this machine, mixed with water, turned into actual concrete, and then ejected back out into the top there. So I can automatically make concrete as much as I need to. This is a rolling machine, makes flat plates that you need for lots of different tanks and tubes and things in advanced rocketry. Again, pipes going down underground. And then in the back, there's just a Railcraft coke oven, because sometimes you need creosote for laying rails, and it's a good way to make charcoal. I've also added creosote as a fuel that you can use for your different kinds of engines. So your compression dynamo here, steam dynamo here. This actually these days I mostly use for just getting rid of excess materials that I don't need anymore. So excess sticks I can craft into ladders, and that can get burned up in this machine. Excess creosote can go through these machines. Just supplements my power a little bit so I don't have to use so much yellorium. Let's now take a walk over to the armory. And in fact, let's not walk. Let's just go straight there. Okay, Armory. Here we see the diving suit from the Better Diving mod. If I go underwater, then I actually get a special dial-like interface. And if I'm wearing a diving suit, I can last for many minutes underwater. This is my space suit from the Advanced Rocketry mod. This is just some old iron armor and steel mixed armor that I've got here from back before I put together my own set of flux-infused armor, which is from Thermal Foundation, of course, or Redstone Arsenal, I forget which one. Over here, we can see a lot of the weaponry that I've built from the guns mod. So here's a rifle, and I can use my scope to zoom in and see things that are far away. This does quite a lot of damage, but you have to be very precise, of course. So here's a pistol with a silencer on it. The reason for the silencer is that any enemy which can be alarmed by attacking nearby things, especially zombie pigmen, will be less likely to be disturbed and start coming after you if you have a silencer. Here's a bazooka, which I found very handy when I was fighting the Ender Dragon. And up here is a Gatling gun, which does an incredible rate of fire, although the individual rounds don't do a ton of damage. Again, extremely useful against the Ender Dragon. Here I've got an energetic infuser. This allows me to recharge my armor and my various tools that use power. And I think we can head back over here. So here we are back at the main reception area. Follow this corridor down here. And it's actually the right time of day. Hello. At one point I needed ender pearls, and I hadn't yet gone to the end. So I kidnapped a cleric villager. Here we are. This is the Observatory. So among your many different options when you're playing around with advanced rocketry is the ability to do asteroid mining missions, which is to say, send your rocket up and go break down an asteroid and get a whole bunch of ore back again without having to do all of that yourself. Well, one of the first steps in that process is to identify where are the asteroids that you might want to mine. So over here, we can see I've got a selection of asteroids I've previously identified and the different ores that are available in those asteroids. So here, for example, I can get one that will get me all of these ores for the price of sending up a rocket to go deal with it. This, of course, only opens at night and requires a good view of the nighttime sky. So finally, I think let us go take a look at, went right past it, the kitchen. So food in Ad Astra is complicated by a couple of things. First, we have the Spice of Life mod, which makes it so that if you ate the same food over and over and over again, you'll get less and less benefit from eating that food. So you have to have a variety of things in your diet. Also, we have Harvestcraft, which I noted before, and that adds a tremendous variety of food, which is good, but it also adds, I think, hundreds now of recipes for different things that you can make, which starts to get pretty overwhelming. So now there's dozens and dozens of kinds of raw ingredients and hundreds of recipes that you can mix them together in, kind of like in real life. So these blocks are added by cooking for blockheads, which all of them form one big multi-block that connects into this cooking table. And here we can see all of the different recipes that I have food enough to be able to make in the adjoining cabinets. So as I open up these different cabinets, we can see that I've got a whole bunch of food stored away. And here in this refrigerator, likewise, I've got a whole bunch of food stored away because I've been collecting for a while and eating sparingly. One of the nice integrations is that the oven that Cooking for Blockheads adds can be integrated with thermal expansion and use its power. So now I don't need to use cooking oil or coal or anything else. I can just use RF energy to cook my food. Same thing with this sink. I've actually plumbed water to the sink so I can just get fresh water straight off. So whenever I need to make any food, I head up here. And I think that gives us pretty much the full tour of what I've built so far, which of course is not hardly everything that these mods have. The server's only been up for a couple of weeks now, and I've been playing quite a lot, as you can see. But there's still a long ways to go in developing the server and building up all of the different things that the mods offer. We're really just starting to scratch the surface. So if you'd like to join us, check out the notes below and go check things out and apply to join our server.